This is Radar for On the Radar at our tape blog, coming to another edition of Movie Reviews Observation number 99. Like 99 red balloon, close to 100. Wow. So, as I get towards the end of movies that I requested from other libraries, it's not the greatest selection. First movie I watched was called Furies. It was like an Australian horror film where there's definitely plenty of gore, blood, decapitation, people heads being ripped off, body parts being ripped off, where this woman wakes up in a coffin and there's these mass salients out there trying to kill them, but then she realizes that each assailant, bad guy is supposed to be the one that protects her from the other bad guys and kill the other ones, and it's like a game for rich people where they, can watch it for their own viewing pleasure and bet on it, and it's all like political statement and greed and corporate greed and stuff like that, which I don't. And I was like, it was okay. This woman's supposed to get a best friend. She's trying to survive. Others are selfish. There's a little girl. It was okay. It was barely 80 minutes. So it wasn't that long. It was interesting. Uh, Tracking devices on them. It was okay. It was an okay horror film for a very short horror film. If you just need something to watch, it was okay. Then I watched this movie called Aviva that was about almost 2 hours long. And man, oh man, if this movie was maybe 80 to 90 minutes like that horror film, then it would probably be a way tolerable movie to spend your time. So you're already like, great, I am sitting through this almost 2 hour film. It is not that great. And the movie is about some woman who comes from Europe, and she meets a guy that she's been talking to on the internet for a while. And this movie is not just the guy and girl interacting, but is other actors playing each of them. So you get confused with who's Eden and who's Aviva because they keep changing the actor, so it could be a different woman playing her and a different man playing him. Then they throw in the added benefit of showing the masculinity and the femininity, so it's like, okay, cool. So the Aviva woman could be represented as a man, and Aiden, the dude, could be represented a woman, and then they have more than they probably should. Both of them in a male form, if not the original form of the boyfriend, and them having sex and them making out. More than they have the female versions making out or having sex, but then they show them getting married. Then it's like very weird where there's like, yeah, you're gonna hang out with your bunch of your friends at the bar. Like this person's worried about her boyfriend cheating on her with these men, and they're all naked and their junk is out there. And then they go to a social worker or like somebody who helps them out with like their marital stuff, and he's naked. It's like an 80-year-old man with his junk sticking out. And I'm just like, lots of junk sticking around, lots of erotic sex between same genders and mixed genders, and it's just confusing. You can't tell throughout the movie who is who and what the heck is going on. So you're just like, what was the point of this movie? It makes absolutely no sense. You're like, oh, it's an artistic direction. No, it's a horrible direction. Then I watched a documentary, Mustang Saviors, about how U.S. veterans try to like work with horses and calming down wild Mustangs and putting them together. So you learn a little bit about horses and Mustangs and the PTSD and all these veterans, how it makes their lives better. So it's an okay 90-something minute documentary where you learn some stuff overall, but yeah, it was okay. It's not the world's greatest documentary, not the world's worst documentary. It was just okay. That's all I can say. Then I watched the movie The Right One, where it's a dumb rom-com, so you already know going into it, it's not going to make sense, it's not going to be well written and put together. It's barely 90-something minutes, so also you're not wasting a lot of time. You get Cleopatra Coleman, who I know as a woman from Last Man on Earth, so at least you can say, hey, I led a comedy on my own. And I've never heard of this Nick Thune guy, but I give him the credit. He stole the show in this movie. And Isla Schlesinger, the stand-up comedian who I've seen before, David Koechner pops his head in here, and he's funny always. The premise is this woman is like a writer, but then she decides to write books that she's not fans of, but knows she can make money on it. She's struggling to find inspiration, and this Ilzia Seltzer is like her agent best friend, and she's just like, you gotta sell this book. She meets this weird dude who's like on the street playing music, but then at a bar playing music, then being a DJ, then he's out there pretending to be a woman, and then he's like doing this, blah, 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 and it's some dude, and this dude has a mental illness, and he's something that's wrong with him. And she's glowing into this, like, maybe I can write a book about him, or maybe I can fall in love, and she kind of uses him, and then obviously she screws up, and she's got to win him back, sort of thing. The movie just ends just like that. They don't resolve anything, just bam, it ends where they're, like, talking, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, people are like, oh no, it's a bad way to look at people with mental illness. I'm like, it's a dumb comedy. You got to give Nick Thune credit. of playing all these different people and all these different personalities, just being way out there when he's at work, when he's doing this other stuff for fun, you know, dealing with childhood trauma, whatever. It's not a drama. It's supposed to be a rom-com, so it's supposed to be weird, quirky, and funny. And it was pretty funny. I'd give him credit. This was not the worst idea I've ever seen. It was okay. Then I watched Balloon Man, which was a great documentary because we learned about a former football player who decides to become like the pioneering black man who takes people on hot air balloons, and he's like a pioneer where he does balloon riding races and all this. I mean, you learn about the whole industry, how cool it is, and how like you could die and stuff like that, and it's his children and all the people that he touched their life. So I thought it was a pretty good documentary. It was way better than Mustang Saviors. It was very interesting. I would suggest you watch it. Then I watched Journey to Royal, a World War II rescue mission, and I liked how they decided to take it as a way of, let's have a dramatizing of it. Let's have an actual acting of what happened. People who crash land, the people, how they get saved by somebody, how they saved them, and then a submarine saved them, and all the acting out of these characters are interesting. But then you blend it in with first-hand account interviews from all the people that were there and throughout the whole entire issue, all people from World War II that were, they were interviewing them, the children, the relatives. And so it was a very good story where you blend in documentary with actual acting. I would have preferred the whole entire movie be a biopic, but overall it was a great splicing of biopic with documentary. And again, barely 90 minutes, so you learn a lot and it goes by. And being my grandfather, being a former veteran of World War II, rest in peace to him, and my uncles and all the other ones fighting in these wars. So it was pretty interesting hybrid of a movie. Then I watched The Legend of Barakatola, and it was, an hour and 40 minutes. So it was basically about this dude who comes back to town to sell his father and uncle's house, but his uncle doesn't want to sell, and he's living in the fact that in this cul-de-sac, this guy's father is a famous, wrestler, and everybody looked up to him, but there's some gangs there, and it's making the neighborhood not so great. The uncle goes, I'm not selling it whatsoever, and then the championship belt gets stolen. The whole movie is him trying to get the belt back, then realize that maybe the town is a good thing, maybe he should be there. All these other things, trying to save the town from itself, being a better person. It was interesting. Flashbacks to his father. He had a friend he reconnected with. There's like this guy who looks like he's playing both sides, and it was interesting plot twist. And it was like, yeah, not a bad movie. A lot of action, fighting, and some comedy, a mix put together. This Australian type of movie again, where it's like made there, and it was in 2 languages. So it's like, I would like to say this though, the actor in this movie, this Uli Lakatudu, if I never watched the drama Young Rock, because it's not funny whatsoever, the comedy, I would have never known this guy to be an actor and him being in his 30s, because when it flashes forward to 30 years in the future, I'm like, this guy's known for playing a young Dwayne The Rock Johnson between the ages of 18 and 25. I don't really think he's in his 30s. And then his father, the actor who plays his father, is one of the Samoan wrestler brothers who are on Young Rock, is playing Dwayne The Rock Johnson's uncle. And the guy playing the guy who's like leading on both sides, I've seen him before, so it was an interesting movie. I would say I enjoyed this one because it was very interesting. If you want to just sit there and watch a dumb comedy, I would watch the right one, but I feel like the best movie I watched was The Legend of Barakatola, and then Balloon Man and Journey to Royal, were interesting enough documentaries that I learned stuff. Mustang Saviors, average. Aviva was like one of the worst things I've ever watched in my life, and Furies was an okay horror film. So thanks for listening to another edition of Movie Reviews and Observations, number 99. For On the Radar Tape Blog, I'm Radar. See you guys next time.